All right, welcome to the online network of independent learning professionals. We are going to be chatting with Kabir Singh today. He is a professional voice actor, poet, and philosopher, and he's going to be talking to us about contracts, live direction tips, e-learning voiceover styles, rates, and editing techniques. He's also part of our community, and I am really excited to get started chatting with him here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And maybe Kabir, if you could just tell us a little bit about you and what you do, and then you can tell us what you know. And throughout the time, you guys, again, we will take chat questions, and then also feel free if you need to raise your hand, you can do participants and then raise hand.
Absolutely. Thank you guys very much for allowing me to be a part of this and giving me your time. I really appreciate it. My name is Kabir Singh. I'm a voice actor, poet, and philosopher. And you can find a lot of my work at kabirsvoice.com. I've been a voiceover artist for about 7 to 10 years. And a range of my projects would include mainly commercials, a lot of church videos, and e-learning. And those kind of compensate my specialties. And I created a little presentation for you guys, a PowerPoint that I'll share just to break down some of these questions that we received regarding when hiring a voiceover artist. So feel free to ask any questions. And if you have, I'll make sure to respond either at the end or in between. But yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen and we'll get to it.
Thanks, Kabir. We're just so excited to have you today. I'm going to go ahead and start compiling the questions, and then as we get natural pauses. So just in case anybody's asking a question and they're like, oh, I'm not getting an answer.
Absolutely.
I will make sure you get answers.
Could I share my screen? It says it's disabled. Would I be able to share my screen, Patty?
Oh, yes, of course. So sorry about that. Now try it again.
No worries.
I'm still getting used to all the Zoom security features. Back in the day, we could just like anybody willy-nilly, all this stuff.
All right. All right. So
perfect.
Today's topic is regarding hiring a professional voice actor. We're going to be talking about a range of things from contracts to live direction tips, e-learning voiceover styles, rates, editing tips, and I'll give you guys some resources that just in general the voiceover industry uses that might be helpful when you guys are either negotiating with talent or inquiring about rates and all these other things. Again, a little bit about who I am. It's on the screen. You can find a lot of my social at Kabir's Voice. I would say that clients would say my specialty is probably around sounding authentic and real. And that's something that I'm no better or worse than any other voice talent. You know, I'm myself, and being yourself and being real. It for me has taken me further in my career than anything. I do a lot of work for colleges and urban sound, multicultural, diverse urban sound. One of my specialties is contractions and ad-libs. And contractions and ad-libs is something that contributes to sounding authentic and real when you're reading formal copy, whether it be e-learning or some module training, employee training. The ability to use slight contractions and ad-libs to make it sound very authentic, very real. Go past here. So one of the main questions that we received on multiple times was had to do with rates and billing. And essentially, what is fair? You know, when I think about quotes that I give to clients, I think about what is fair to them, to me, to my business. And we incorporate everything from supply and demand, you know, studio time. As you can see, the professional booth. So clients will schedule me for certain times. And as that has increased, my rates might increase, where there's many talent who keep the same rates. It's all varying. There's no set rates or billing in voiceover, really. There's only guidance. And one of the best e-learning quotes that I believe is price per word. And a lot of my clients enjoy the price per word way of quoting, primarily because of the simplicity of it. And I can give you an example. When I quote clients, I like to use a form. You'll see on the screen. Let me type this in. This is an internal type form that I kind of built for clients because I'm in and out the booth a lot more than I used to be. I need to make it efficient for clients to get certain responses to questions. And my form allows that. And, you can implement it on a Google form or a type form or all these tools out there to make it easy. And the questions range from what is your name to exactly, I'll respond to that later. Do you have an NDA? Making sure that clients, if they have an NDA, I receive it prior to auditioning, prior to doing certain confidential work. I give them a link to upload a script so that, again, the efficiency of communication is much better because now I have everything upon initial contact. And this is where we get to the main crux of it is in in e-learning. This is the number one question I ask is how many words? Is it 5,000, 10,000, 30,000, 100? That gives me a good base point. And then also the second most important question has to do with editing. And again, that's in the type form. What do you need to edit? Multiple files, single files? Is it raw? Is it cleaned up and edited very nicely and perfectly? VO usage and license. When it comes to commercial voiceovers, we tend to deal with a lot of specifics in usage. Is it used for in perpetuity? Is it used for paid placement online? Traditional paid placement used to be just TV, broadcast, and radio, terrestrial. And now it's much more shifted where like the internet has become broadcast media. In essence, the numbers that they pull is, in some cases way more than TV ads. And that's something as a voice actor we consider in our licensing agreements. But with e-learning, usually it's always in perpetuity, and usually it's always internal, meaning the client's going to use it on their corporate internet, or they might just have it for employees training. And these questions help me better understand the need of my client right upon initial communication. And when you're doing price per word, I would love to share this very specific resource. This is the Global Voice Academy. And I have no affiliation with the Global Voice Academy other than a lot of industry professionals use it as a metric on how to quote for your projects. Let me go back to the top for a second. As you can see on here, voiceover categories. So in the voiceover categories, we have different things. We have TV broadcast, non-broadcast, video games, e-learning, etc. And if we go to just the e-learning one for a second, this is a guidance that the industry has kind of set for a lot of professional voice actors to look at. And what's a fair rate? So if I skip down to the second column here, you'll see it says per word, 20 cents to 35 cents a word. Notes, including editing, and then it gives you an average. It also gives you an average or max of words, including, and this doesn't necessarily include directed sessions. That's the last column there. So I personally get a lot of clients that like to do directed sessions, and I like that ability because it's way more efficient when you're in a live directed session, whether you're doing it over Zoom or Skype or something more advanced. It allows for instant communication and revision. So a client can hear me do a line and may not like it, and automatically I can adjust and they can have all those takes instead of going back and forth with revisions. There are exceptions to that rule. Sometimes there's, a long list of people that need to review the takes and they can't be on that live session. In those cases, you work those individually. And the price per word here, the 20 cents to 35 cents, is an average for edited files. And if I go back to my presentation here, um, the things to consider when you're thinking of editing is what type of editing. You know, sometimes I might get a client that, especially if they have their in-house production, they may not want me to edit the files. They just want a raw take. So that could include all the mistakes, all the click clack and the breaths, etc., and just that whole session file. And I can send that to them because they may want a couple of ABCs or different ways and inflections of using certain words, and just to include it. And you know, when they're editing, they'll go in and chop it up and do what they need to do. That rate might be a little bit less, and I'm going to give you here an example here shortly. It might be a little less than some client that needs very detailed editing. And e-learning can get very detailed in editing when it comes to not only the number of words. You have 10,000 words, that's one thing, but now you have 200 files and you have to name the files very, very specifically. These type of things can become very tedious, no more or less tedious than any other work that other people do, but it's just a metric to quoting based on these things. And when I'm quoting, I like to ask what type of editing. Is it raw? Is it 100 files? Is it 10 files? You want it completely edited? Okay, cool. And there's a standard, you know, usually I'm delivering that standard in MP3 WAV files. And that seems to be consistent with the request of a lot of the e-learning industry professionals also. Efficiency and reliability of delivery. I like to, in business, I really have learned to appreciate the value added, the added value things, you know, the things that on paper you're just paying for voiceover. I'm no, you can go hire many voiceover talent. There's thousands of them out there. But I believe one of the reasons people, including myself, will become successful in some of these endeavors is because all these extra value added things. Can I communicate properly? Can I deliver efficiently? Can I have integrity? And these are things that are often overlooked, but they matter because if a client, just like me, I have deadlines to clients. I'm sure my client has deadlines to their client. And it all has to do with smooth communication, an efficient way to get to the email, respond to the email, or call the talent, or just as efficient as possible. And revisions is the last thing. Revisions, especially with e-learning, are a little more flexible because they're understandable. And the way we calculate revisions is different depending on the type of project it is. And I always believe it's fair to give at least one round of revisions. Obviously, when it's the talent's fault, mispronunciation, or an editing quality issue, 100% the talent should take care of it, you know. But if it's a script change, if it's, oh, I don't like this sentence, let's change it to this. It's also not fair then to have the talent go in multiple times and re-record. So having a set amount of revisions is very helpful and efficient for both people doing business.
Wow, this is really great information, Kabir. We have a couple of questions if you're okay to take
Absolutely.
a couple questions now.
Absolutely.
We've got several questions, but I'll focus on the ones that have to do with this, and then just so everybody knows, we will get to everyone's questions. But you know, when you do a price per word, does it typically include in those type of estimates? Does it typically include words like is and and? I mean, is it every single word, and it's all kind of because there's some longer words and some shorter words, or how does that work?
That's a great question, and I would say it's see, keeping it simple as possible is probably best. To say, I like to just include all the words because there's no way of saying, oh, one big word is bigger than the other. It might take me less time to say this word than it might take that time to say that word. And each method has a complication or a drawback. Like, for instance, people like to do per page. Okay, per page is fine. Per page is fine. However, I've encountered these instances where a client will have a per page that they try to fit a .8 font of 1,000 words on one page, so you can get really weird with those types of things. So with the price per word, you kind of just select all, calculate. Now, what it shouldn't include, here's what it shouldn't include. It definitely shouldn't include the titles of the slides or the direction of the person. It should just be script copy only. Script copy only, not this is the title file XYZ and just script copy only. So if a client does send that to me, I'll go ahead and just quickly cut out the script titles and just give an estimate on the word count if they don't already have it. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that's really helpful. And I love the intake form that you had. We had someone ask, what did you use to make the intake form? I think you had said something about Google Docs, but I wasn't sure if that was.
Absolutely. Thank you. That's one thing. That's a tool that, man, I've really come to love. Just like Danny's Monday.com suggestion. I've come to love Monday.com, and this is another tool that I've really come to love. There's many forms out there. There's Jot form, there's Google Forms. This one is called Type Form. And I've used it for a very long time, and I really enjoy it because first of all, you have to put a lot of work in the type form initially. What I mean by that is you have to set it up. You have to make sure your questions are correct. And they have a lot of videos, and it takes some time. However, dude, it is the most efficient tool I've used in a long time. It is spectacular. I will just send a link to a client in the email and say, I'm in session, which often I am, and they have a rush. I can send them this form. They'll fill out the info. I'll get it instantly in my email. Then when I'm out of session, I have all their info. Let me reply to them. So that's called type form. Amazing.
I love that. I can definitely see a lot of uses for that in our, just what we do too. And one other question, and then we'll move on. But question about, is there a difference in pricing when the e-learning will be used with public registration? So like a lot of clients sometimes will actually have us build courses that they're going to, license and have people take. So they're kind of reselling the seat time. Is there a difference in pricing if it's going to be used for that typically?
There could be, and to be, ask me an honest question, I'll give you an honest answer, which is to say that some talent may not be aware of it, and some talent may just, not care, and that's that's okay. Like there's a ladder in all business, and we all have to climb that ladder, and everyone usually starts at the bottom of the ladder. And when I started, I was doing $10 jobs, because I had no jobs, so like. It's a game you have to kind of grow and understand the depth of the details of. So some talent, yes, they will ask you the usage, and if you say that it is public and that's transparent, you guys have a contract, they might adjust that. Some talent won't. For me, specifically for me, and this will also show on the next two slides, which is actually this one. If I made this slide right here, shows it pretty well. So. This is a resource by Kim Handyside's voiceover. Kim Handyside's voiceover. She's a colleague, and Kim does a lot of like medical e-learning. She's very good at those types of like formal medical e-learning things, and she has a great resource page. And I got this from her resource page, and it's a great example on the price per word, but also another key factor, which look, you can go to McDonald's, but sometimes we like to go to In-N-Out. But then sometimes we like to have a fine steak. There's no difference between working with voice talent or e-learning directors or producers. Everyone is better or worse at times. With that said, there's set examples of like, what would a project cost if someone was maybe a beginner or a bargain voiceover range? What would it cost for a mid-range voiceover? So a simple example would be, say you had you know, 750 words or something like that, or in between. 0 to 5 minutes is around the speaking time. The bargain would be $200, 27 cents per word. The mid-range, 34 cents per word, $250. The Rolls Royce version would be 53 cents, $400 for that. And this is just an example of an average of how. Another factor is certain talent might charge a lot because they're demanded way more now. Um, their time is, you know, simple supply and demand metric. Um, Regardless, to say that there's still an onus on the talent to take in all factors. And the next slide will show that. But before we go to that, I would like to say the price per word to me is also easy in communicating revisions and editing costs. Because an example could be, actually, let me go to the next slide. I think that'll be a good way to do it. Okay, this is a good way. So here's a real life example of two different clients that I quoted on to give an idea. So client A is a really big corporation. Client A is like Nike, okay? Uh, they they might have some bulk work. It might be a consistent thing. Let's say they have 5,000 words, raw, no editing, all on one file. So I just have to either do a live session. We get in for an hour, most likely for this would be like 2 hours. And there's a lot of pre-work done too. Like I don't just go raw with a script. If a client sends me e-learning, I'm gonna spend a few hours, you know, absorbing the material. I'm gonna spend a few hours just making sure my tongue is sharp, reading the words and understanding their direction. When we do the live session, let's say client A says, raw, no editing, please. Okay, cool. Well, I might quote that client 40 cents a word because they're a giant company. And they might have, not just because they're a giant company, but now because even in regular advertising, everything is reach and in placement. So like they might have 40,000 employees, not 20. So all these things um, will kind of make me adjust my rate. And if they wanted editing, it could go upwards of 60 cents a word. Now, the revision policy is included in this, and it's very simple to do a revision policy with price per word. In this case, I do one round of revisions up to 750 words. So I just take a fraction of the amount of words. And that's why it kind of makes it really easy. And all this is negotiable. You know, I'm always willing to flex back and forth with clients. There's no, you know, I believe in doing fair business. So if it's not fair to them, not fair to, and sometimes it doesn't meet. Sometimes what's fair to me is not fair to you. And I'll just, you know, I'll do my best to refer you to someone, and that's okay. And any mistake that the talent does should be taken care of. Let's go to client number two. Client number two is a local shop. Okay, it's just down the street, mom and pop style, or it's an NGO, or it's some government one that's, you know, AmeriCorps, or doing something that really is more humanity service based. Now, with these clients, very similar approach in the type of quote you give, 5,000 words. Let's say they want editing. They don't have an in-house production team. Okay, so in this case, we're going to edit the files, 100 files, let's call it, with file naming, meaning I'm not just going to bounce the file 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They want specific titles and names for the files. I might quote this client 36 cents a word edited. But if they wanted it raw, we can go lower. We can go maybe down to 24 cents a word, where with the big client, I'm at 40 cents a word for raw. And that's to show a little bit of leniency and flexibility on who the client is, what their needs are, what their demands are. Some clients may be like, Kabir, charge us a little bit more, give us 2 rounds of revisions or 3 rounds. Okay, cool. It's all a discussion. So this is a real life example. If there's any questions, Patty, feel free to ask on this sample. Otherwise, yeah, happy to move on.
We're good to move forward here. Yeah, we've got
Sounds
other
good.
questions we'll get to. Yep.
Sounds good. So another question that was asked was, how can we do uh, a better job communicating with talent or having expectations of editing and live sessions, etc.? And it's a great question. It's a great and one that I can really appreciate, because I also want to do a better job of communicating and understanding needs of my clients, people that hire me. It's my duty to do so. So it's a great question. And I couldn't help but just put always communicate. And I say that more to my talent people than I say to people hiring the talent, because I feel like it's overlooked sometimes on how important the efficiency of communication can be when you're emailing, um, you know, a time sensitive thing, when you need to respond right away, or at least in a reasonable time frame. But to communicate specific things is even better. What I mean by that is to communicate off the bat the number of words, to communicate off the bat the type of editing that will be done. Uh, do you want a raw recording? Do you want a basic cleanup? Do you want a more advanced file naming cleanup and editing? How many files? Any special file naming protocol? Revision policy. Another great metric to ask talent right away is their revision policy. Pronunciations. This is also, I used to often overlook this one, is pronunciations, which is why I try to do my best to be, before live sessions, etc., absorb the content and ask the pronunciation questions, especially when you're dealing with like more complex things. Medical narration can be, I'm not the expert in that thing, but I know that the words can be very complex, so pronunciations are important. And if no live session is wanted or desired, that's cool too. Um, the best way to approach that as a talent, I feel, is before recording the material, give them 1, 2, 3 minute sample of exactly what the file would sound like. And beyond just an audition, give them a sample of how you're thinking you're approaching the script in terms of inflection, pace, and energy. Get that approved, and then go into the full recording. So again, to recap, it's number of words, the type of editing, revision policy, pronunciations, and if no live session is required, to get an approval of a sample. And I think these things will definitely help the transaction that you guys have and the business you guys have. One of the second to last slides here is authenticity. And this is something I've worked on my entire life, is try to be who I am. And I think it's a journey that I don't anticipate that's going to end anytime soon. I think it's a progress to figure out who you are. And the beauty of it is I can translate this authenticity to my business. And oftentimes it rewards me, because clients are looking for authenticity more than anything. At least when I hear what they're asking for, they're looking for authenticity. What does that mean? How do you translate authenticity into e-learning? And one of those things is a set of understanding the dynamics of the voice, the dynamics of reading script, reading copy. And I got a cool little simple example here. Contractions, ad libs, balance of inflections, knowing when to punch words and not punch words. The pace and the energy. If I'm speaking to uplift coworkers and team members, then I'm going to approach that differently than if it's a heartfelt message e-learning for COVID. So understanding that balance. Then you have the formal, the informal, and the hybrid. It's like my little just my little made up thing. But an example would be if I get a copy that's formal, it might sound like this. Onboarding shall start as soon as you have completed the next step. Very formal. The informal, the one that's a little more swagged up and a little more Kabir-like, might be, okay, so onboarding is going to start as soon as the next step is finished. It's a different style. The hybrid is a nice little balance of it. Onboarding will start as soon as the next step is completed. Just a simple example to show that authenticity can be tweaked. Uh, it doesn't mean you don't have to be who you are. It just means you have to understand the formal, the informal, understanding how the common cadence of just people having a conversation is. And that's I, I like authenticity. It's taken me really deep into my soul. So um, some resources for you guys. I would say the first one is the Kim Handysides e-learning rate guide. The second one is, this is Edge Studio. Edge Studio has a pretty cool, now let me click it. There it is. Should be going to it. 1 second. No, go back. Mm. All right, well, there's a script words to time calculator in Edge Studio. And I want to show you guys. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick, because it is pretty helpful. Edge Studio script timer. This has been around for a really long time, and it's Edge Studios based in New York, a voice production studio. They have a cool little script timer, and I use it often, where you can just go and type in, I know the number of words in my script. Let's call it 5,000 or whatever it is. Yeah, 5,000. It'll let me know it's 27 minutes around, and you can change it. If you're thinking it's a slower cadence, it might be around 2 hours. You know, it allows you to play around with it. So definitely, because I understand my own cadence, understand my own way of maybe dancing around these lines, I'm usually around the average, you know, opposed to the fast delivery. So it's a great resource, edgestudio.com. And then I'll go back here. And we've already seen the rate guide for Global Voiceover Academy. Again, voice actor, poet, philosopher, kabirsvoice.com. You can check out any of the socials or my videos and clients. And yeah, that's essentially the end
Awesome.
of that presentation. So let me stop sharing.
Dang. This is extremely helpful, Kabir. Thank you so very much. And Danny had mentioned an acronym. Was that the transparency, or is that something else? You said it was an acronym that you shared with her that helped her determine how you read the script. Was that when you were talking about transparency, or is it something else?
No, it is something else. She remembers that. That's awesome, man. Okay, so there's an acronym I use with clients, and it's very helpful in communicating the direction of really any copy. And it's like kind of like my dimensions of voice, you know? And the acronym is CAVE. C is for cadence. Essentially, it's just pace. How 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 you dance with the lines, how you dance with the words. How fast is it? How slow is it? And A is for attitude. How much smile are you going to put in it? Is it going to be warm? Is it going to be an attitude that motivates and inspires? Or is it going to be soft and really, really grounded? There's different types of attitudes, essentially the acting. V is for volume. I like the volume one. It's not really used in e-learning, but an example would be like sometimes you get copy that's really intimate and you need that volume to be very intimate. And then that volume might build over time. You might have a climactic part where that volume gets really loud. So understanding volume. And the last one is energy. E is for energy. And that kind of can be adjusted in different ways, you know, depending on what your message is, who you're talking to, what your audience, my energy for, I did Buffalo Wild Wings e-learning a while ago, and all their, my message with Buffalo Wild Wings and their audience is going to be much different than my message if I'm doing an e-learning for, a nonprofit that is based around education, and it may be a little more formal. My energy might be different. So the acronym, thank you for mentioning it, is CAVE: cadence, attitude, volume, and energy.
Awesome. Thank you. That's really cool. I'm glad you asked that, Danny. That's awesome. Um, so we've got a few questions about voiceover setup, and I want to, what would you call it? Suggest if other folks have stuff that they want to weigh in here. It doesn't have to be just all Kabir at this point, because if you've got some thoughts on these questions coming up, you can either raise your hand, just like wave, or you could use the raise hand button, or just type it in the chat. But the first question is from Fred, and it is, what are your thoughts on a portable sound box? We've been talking about it in chat just a little bit.
Let's see. I did see that. Let me click on his link. I know he sent one. Now there's many. Okay, yeah. Okay, so there's many different setups that you can go with, and the setup you choose is very dependent on your environment and your use of it. So like, if you're going to do professional voiceovers, you can do them in these porta booths. You could, but it also has to depend on your chain, meaning your audio chain, meaning how good of a noise floor do you have? And we might get a little too technical here, but like how low is your noise floor? Because the noise floor in this booth, which is a really more advanced booth, the noise floor is amazing. Like there's no way the microphone would pick up even a pin drop maybe. But these portable booths also serve a purpose. If it's for an audition, you can get away with a porta booth. But I will say this. I have seen people that make $500,000 a year in voiceover do professional voiceovers in their hotel room with their mattress, pillows, and a really awesome audio chain setup. But that audio chain setup is really, really impressive. So it does work. The porta booth, there are ones that are better or worse than others. What I'm in is a very expensive, this booth is like 15 grand. You can get a great porta booth in the range of 150 to like $1,800. Again, but that's I'm talking, we'll go Rolls Royce of porta booth versus a porta booth that you might get, at Walmart. So like there is a range. And if you want to email me specifically, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction of which porta booth might be better for you based on your desire and need. There are different ones, and they serve different purposes, and you can get away with them for sure. Does that work?
That's very helpful. And kind of going along with that is like the minimum audio setup. Like for example, you've got like 2 mics, one with a filter, that kind of thing. Is there like a certain type of instrumentation, I guess, is like that is minimum for that?
So like a specific simple setup for doing voiceovers?
Right. Yeah. And this question is from Joy. And I know, like, and I guess it also really does depend, for example, with me, I would be like your bargain, voiceover artist, because I do, like, if someone wants to just save a little money and use voiceover, and they're already getting an e-learning course from me, then I can do it in a pinch, and so for me, I just have like, my little porta booth, and then 1 mic and a filter, and I do it in my closet, and I put like all of the, big heavy winter coats in there with me and that kind of thing. So for me, that's like the minimum setup. But like back to what you were saying, Kabir, I think it really just depends on what is the quality that people are trying to get to, and what is their environment in that kind of thing.
I will say I've been a bargain guy my whole life, you know. So I definitely I understand like um there's different levels, and there's no rush to get to the different levels. You know, everyone has a different game or a different goal. My goal is purely voiceover, so I had to attack this in a manner that's very different. Um I come f- I'm I come from a trailer park, you know. I was born poor. So for me, I'm getting it. I mean, I want it all. So like in my mind, the what my goals are going to dictate it very differently in how I approach the quality and everything. Like I was getting away with the closet stuff up until a certain point, you know, up until a certain point of clients that I wanted to reach, and you know, I had to change it up for people that have, let's say, they have a specific goal just to do voiceovers for their clients, for their e-learning clients. You can get away with a simple setup, as in having like for an example, you don't need, people love gear. They love gear. I didn't buy this $1,000 microphone until 6, 7 years into voiceover. I was rocking a $250 mic, and I was making more money than anything I've ever done, but still rocking a $250 mic. People think that you need a $5,000 mic, you don't need not. I, I didn't buy this mic until I made a lot of money in voiceover. You don't need expensive audio equipment. That's a microphone. There's many interfaces out there, some better than others. I use an Apollo Twin. It's about $400 to $600. Again, there's ones that are thousands. There's ones that are 150, like the Focusrite. That was one of my first ones, was the Focusrite. A simple interface, um, and you can use it in a simple setup. I use Logic Pro. No one in voiceover really uses Logic Pro no more. I've just built a habit. A lot of people use Adobe Audition. Super efficient, very easy to make mistakes and undo mistakes. Adobe Audition is excellent. I promise you, I would use it if I didn't spend every day for the past 8 years using Logic. I would use Adobe Audition, 100%. Even simpler and less cost effective is Twisted Wave or Audacity. Twisted Wave a little bit better because it has extra plugins and stuff that you can use to improve your quality. And it's multi-track also, I believe. So um, those are little, anyone can email me at any time, and I'll get deeper into maybe giving you advice on, for example, a noise gate. A noise gate changed my life. And I have to learn these things, man. I consulted so many people to learn these things. A noise gate changed my life. I used to do voiceovers in the closet. Gardener would come, boom, you hear stuff outside. I could not solve it. Well, you have a simple noise gate in your audio chain, and now it takes out that noise. But it can get tricky, and you have to EQ right and have correct compression and these things. And that's where like the dirty details get into. But it's all possible. You don't need a lot of money. You can get a dope voiceover setup with a little porta booth, little mic, under $600-700 maybe, and you can make that work 100%.
Very cool. Yeah. And Joy, feel free to speak out if you want, but I think you're maybe similar to me, just in a pinch doing some voiceover for e-learning. Is that kind of what are you doing?
I'm wanting to hire voiceover talent. So if I'm looking for somebody and I'm comparing prices, I don't know how to analyze, other than with my naked ear, which is untrained, other than potentially a bit of a musician. How do I know the quality is being delivered? So one of the ways I'm considering is equipment. The other way is, is there some kind of platform analysis you would suggest to me to make sure that when I deliver my course, that my learners don't end up hearing things that I hadn't happened to detect?
That's a great question, and very understandable. Uh, mm, mhm. Always getting an audition first is one of the best screening methods, and then you go deeper. Well, how do I know I got a good audition compared to what the best audition could sound like? And that is a little bit of a learning curve to understand the depth of the quality of audio. You know, everything from is it too compressed? And you might have to learn these terms. Is it too compressed? Is it sound boxy? Does it sound tinny? Like you can hear these things when your ear begins to hear a lot of them, you'll start hearing these different sounds. And there would, you know, there's references you can check, and a good reference, actually a great reference would be this. Existing voiceover demos are a great reference. Whether you find that on any voice talents website, mine included, voices.com, voice123, you can go to these websites and find existing voiceover talent who have specific e-learning demos. I have my specific e-learning demo. You'll hear, you know, how it should sound. Now, this is also a tricky thing. You'll hear how it should sound, but then you don't necessarily get how that talent will sound when they're not paying to have a demo produced. So it has to do with knowing the talent, you know, researching their website, seeing how credible they are. Do they have reviews? All these things will add up, because we will take a little learning curve, a listening curve, to understand quality of what, you know. Unfortunately, I don't knock nobody's hustle. You can go hustle on Fiverr.com, Voice12. Everyone has their own doings, and that's much respect and love. However, you will hear on some of these sites, the quality of audio is not up to par. And I know this ever since the COVID instances has happened. A big industry change has happened with agents. They're no longer getting talent into professional booths. Talent need to have professional booths now. There's no, oh, I'm going to Nike studio. They just booked 3 hours in downtown LA. There's no more of that no more. Not right now. You need to have a professional booth, or you just don't play the game. Not on that level. So these are little tips that I think, does that maybe guide you in the right direction with that advice? Cool.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. Wonderful. Great questions, Joy. You know, I had not even thought about that, Joy, like thinking about what type of equipment that voiceover artists have. You know, instead I would just listen, but that is a really great question to make that part of the evaluation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gosh, such awesome information, Kabir, and it's just so interesting. Like, I don't think we've had someone actually present to us from a voiceover booth, so it's very soothing.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Bridget, what is this membership you're talking about? I don't know if you're on audio or not. SAG?
Yeah, I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild. And so I was wondering, Kabir, how a SAG-AFTRA membership affects your ability to do e-learning voiceover.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is a conversation that gets people really, you know, really passionate. And then it's an honest question. I'm gonna give you an honest answer. I've been a SAG member for a long time. Well, let me step back. I wasn't a SAG member for a very long time until I had to become one for a very big job. One that made it worth it, so I did it. Now, I've been a SAG member for a while, but in the early phases, I came across that conflict because if you're in certain states, you don't have the right to work. So, you know, if you're a union member, you can't go non-union jobs. A lot of e-learning is non-union. So yeah, you know, it's on the talent, how they want to approach that. And there's no right, wrong answer that I can think of. So what I did was I went FICOR, and financial core is you know, it's looked down upon by some people. It's looked up upon by the other people. It's a personal decision that I think every talent should reflect on individually and look at both sides. So yeah, I'm a FICOR.
Wow, didn't even know that was a thing. There we go. Adriana has a question. And Adriana, I don't know if you mean, so you're asking how long it takes to record about 500 words. Like, how long does it take, like physically, or like if you submit something and you say, here's 500 words, when can I get that back? It's like 24-hour turnaround time, or I don't know if you're on audio to clarify.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, he was talking about how he charged per words, and it depends on the emotion. But what I'm thinking is, we all think it's very quick and it's easy to do it. So I just want to have like an idea, because we know for the video, 30 seconds take maybe 1 day or 2. It's just more like have an idea. Like, if I need the service, would it be realistic to request with a week, days, months? How does it work?
Turnaround time. Yeah.
Okay. Again, an honest question. So I got to give an honest answer, which is, look, man, and I've seen it done to me when I hire people, which is some people like to make their service either inflated on how long it takes because you've paid them a certain amount of money and maybe they don't know how to justify it. So they inflate the turnaround time. It takes 3 days, take 5 days, takes 7 hours. If your question is, how long would it take to do a 500-word script? I can answer that in a few different ways. Here's the first way I'd answer it. If it's just a matter of how long does it take in booth, live session, to get a 500-word script done, my answer would be, it depends on the talent. It used to take me 5 times longer to do 500 words because I wasn't as efficient. I wasn't as good. I wasn't as smooth with my delivery. I didn't understand the concepts. Now it may take me 30 minutes or less, 20 minutes or less. It might take me longer if the client requests extra reads. Hey, can we do some extra reads of this and that? So how I define it is, cool, I'll give you a time for 1 hour session. It's up to you. We do the whole hour or we do less. It's up to you. You get the whole hour. That's what the rate, because that's the only way I can justify my cost. And everyone is different. Everyone is different. Now, if your question is, well, how long should it take to do a 500-word script and then turn it around? Is it edited? Okay. Maybe 24 hours. Okay. Well, how detailed is the editing? Is it 500 words, but now there's 500 files? Each word has its own word? That might take a little longer. If it's something just normal, I would say a reasonable time frame is 1 to 3 days, depending on the talent's demand. The talent's more in demand, may have there's often days I'm backlogged in sessions. It's not all the time. Sometimes when I have the time, I'll set a deadline. Let's say I've gotten 5,000 words, set a deadline of 10 business days, and I'll turn it around in 6 maybe. But it gives me that, expectation, gives me an efficient delivery date, and communicate these things. So hopefully that was helpful or answers the question.
Oh, that was really great. Yeah. Because it is all those, little things that it's like the different levels of editing and all of the situation and factors. That makes perfect sense. And I think what, Adriana was getting to is, it's interesting to get a peek at, your type of process, because we understand our process. A lot of times a client will reach out to us and say, we need this e-learning course by next week, because they have no idea like how long it actually takes to, develop something. And so it's interesting to hear from your perspective. Oh my gosh. Well, we're almost at the top of the hour. I'm going to paste or put Kabir's website in the chat just in case anyone didn't capture it yet. It was such an incredible, full of information. What a great job you did with this presentation, Kabir. So chat love to Kabir. Thank you so very much for spending an hour with us today. And yeah, I mean, it's just so great. I will be posting this recording in the Slack community for folks that missed it. And yeah, everybody's saying it's really informative and very, very helpful. So
that's great. Thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate everybody asking questions. And, doing the presentation was, something I wanted to do just for my own discipline and to make sure that I answered all you guys' questions. So thank you for your time. And I am always happy to answer any questions and emails with and I'll even refer you to other talent. You ain't got to mess with me. Like I'm not right for every project, so I definitely just appreciate it. So thank you.
Well, and that's really how our community works as well. It is a share the wealth type of community. Oftentimes, I can't tell you how many times, clients have reached out to me and I've passed it on to someone in the community and then they've done the same. And so I really do believe in, sharing the wealth. And I love your perspective on just work and, the authenticity with which, you conduct yourself. I'm also, is it information? It's information@kabirsvoice.com is your email, right, Kabir?
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay. So I've put his email address in there as well, just to confirm for folks. You're welcome, Sarah. All right. Have a great couple of weeks, you guys. We'll see you on the first Thursday of June, which will be the 4th of June. And otherwise, see you around Slack until then.
Thank you.